Good morning, everybody. I did a quick video this morning. Oh my God. We said truth community, flat earth community, I guess you'd say they've been saying for years now that the Democrats, they took the mask off, they weren't hiding it anymore. And then they pulled last Saturday's stuff. Wow. Wow. I remember in the 80s when Reagan got shot. It's pretty crazy. You don't ever think somebody's going to be willing to do that these days. That's wow. And I don't even know if anything you can say about it on YouTube right now without getting kicked off. I don't even know the parameters. It's like the jabby jab and all of its information. You never knew when you were going to run afoul of the law because there's really no law, I guess. But this is wow. And that what a mess. Everybody that looks at it. When I when I saw it, I was like, oh, like y'all were. Wow. Just wow. And where do you start? This has been one of the biggest bombardments of propaganda and conspiracy theories I've ever seen in my life. I mean, you go all the way from the jump of when it first happened. Boom, there was some picture of some dude out there. Here's the shooter. And there's not that the shooter. Who does all these things? Who does that? Who's the one sitting there putting out all this, as the left likes to call it, misinformation? But just the stories, just boom, boom, back and forth. Oh my God. Nobody knows what's real. We know they use crisis actors all the time. You see these interviews and you're like, these people can't be real. Who are they? But the topic of the video, Flat Earth is winning. I saw a very good video yesterday. A guy, he watches a TED Talk by this old gal. She's a physicist, astrophysicist or something. She's a PhD, and he watches her TED Talk on exoplanets and stuff, and her spewing all of her garbage, and he just slowly leads her in. He had to make up a fake website and everything to send them and accolades and different things he'd done. He had to fake it to even get in with her. And he gets in with her, and it was great. He tells her, I got some questions here from some high school kids interested in being a physicist, right? So he starts out pretty simple. And then before she knows it, at the end, she's sitting there saying stuff like, I certainly wish I had checked your credentials before we did this, and saying shit like, he had her on the Horizon thing and the P900 and doing stuff over 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Now we've got deals over 600 miles. And she's like, I'm not interested in that. And he's like, yeah, don't you think that's interesting that there's no curvature? Y'all's own calculator says that in these pictures right here, there should be, 60 feet of curvature, and I couldn't see the thing. And she's like, I'm not interested. He goes, what do you mean you're not interested? And she goes, that is not what I'm working on. I'm not interested in that. He goes, you're not even interested to look into it? No, I've got other things to do. Is you wouldn't be interested in being the person to prove the earth is flat and they're not a spinning ball going 66,000 miles an hour? And she says, no, not interested in that. But throughout the whole talk, she jumped through her hoops and did the mental gymnastics with all of the theories of the atmosphere, and admitted that it's an arbitrary thing, that at an unknown place, in an unknown fashion, an unknown amount of our atmosphere slips into the void of the vacuum, but it's not affected by the vacuum. I think she even said it's taken on a cosmic journey as it, whatever molecules they say leak out of our atmosphere. They say then, she says, then it goes on a cosmic journey. It doesn't just stay right there. It gets pulled out into the universe. Excuse me. I haven't even hit one yet. But it's just, wow, that was so good. That was so good. As soon as it started getting hard, as soon as it started, in her mind going, I'm being asked questions that I don't know what the heck he's talking about and why he would even ask. But as soon as she got trapped in her first corner, she wanted to know what his credentials were. And then, of course, they do the same thing, whether you're an amateur glove-tard or a master glove-tard. They do the same thing. He starts showing her the footage of distance tests with P900s and stuff. And guess what her excuse was for the whole thing? I don't know who these people are. I don't know if they know how to measure. I don't know if they know what they're doing. Are they doctors? Are they are they peer reviewed? That's all they want to know. What are their credentials? We don't care if you know exactly what you're doing. If you don't have the right piece of paper, it doesn't matter if you solve the whole mystery of the whole universe. If you ain't got the right paperwork, they ain't gonna listen to you. And that's sad. First to another day, wake and bake with you guys. But yeah, they're winning. They're winning because every one of these televised debates that they've been doing, like with Whitsitt and different people, they're winning. They are freaking winning, no doubt about it. They're making those people look stupid. And at what point are we going to quit accepting NASA? Huh? At what point are we going to quit accepting that stuff? Hold on, I'm looking for. On Monday at 1 o'clock, I am going to Lake Charles to the Neuro Solutions Center in Lake Charles. These people claim that through holistic measures, they're chiropractors / general practitioners that use frequency, and they use homeopathic approaches to healing. And I had an interview last week, a Zoom call with one of their doctors, and told him my situation with my back and seizures and stuff like that. And it's crazy. It ain't cheap. You can get a package deal that they call intensive care. Their intensive care package. It was $7,500 just right off the bat. And I laughed. I was like, dude, I want to be healed. I don't want to hurt like this all the time. But geez, man, that's expensive. And that was a girl I talked to at first, and then I talked to the doctor, and I told him, I said, Dad, I want to come over there and I want to get some treatment, but shit, I can't even afford that. The $7,500 a pop. And he goes, well, that's $7,500. That's like a month long deal, yada yada. It's 5 days a week. And I'm like, okay. He goes, we have just like any chiropractor. They're basically a chiropractor with that's taking in all the other um, holistic approaches for people. And he said, hey man, we do the plasma therapy where we draw your blood out, spin it down, and oxygenate your platelets, highly oxygenate them, give them back to you, makes you feel way better. I said they do frequency. He said they have a sound table and like a sound vest you put on that has woofers on it that bombards you with frequency. They said they do a lab work, but they're just looking for mold and parasites and heavy metals, right? I'm not worried about that because like 2 years ago and 6 months ago, I had a heavy metal panel done because I grew up by an oil refinery out in West Texas, and I moved to one of the biggest areas for oil refineries in the country. So I always wondered about heavy metals and growing up around that. But it's going to be interesting to see if I can get some relief in my back. I'd give anything to be able to play around the golf again and not wake up in pain every day. What, it's one of those deals where it's like, okay, what do you do? But the flat earth community, since they started pulling back and just letting a few people kind of get out there and lead the way with with the high profile exposure, they're making ground. But it's one of those deals that mainstream, just like with what's going on in the political arena right now, the mainstream, all that, it's just wow. Yeah, you can't trust nobody. You can't trust nobody. I'm just wow. You see the vice presidential pick. All of these people, they come from the same club. As soon as I heard J.D. Vance went to Yale Law School, I was like, no. And same thing, I like old Vivek, but he's from Yale Law School. He's playing the rebel, but I just don't know. They all went to the same indoctrination centers. And it's not like they turned it off on him and turned it on him. And then another thing that it just, wow, I can't. They started bringing out all the truths about these people. And man, if they don't, always all of them go back to these billionaire people that tapped them when they were in college or something, and then got them into business when they were done with college, and then they're funding their campaigns, right? I mean, how do these people get tapped for these jobs? Because his whole story, JD Vance's whole story, is freaking poor boy, alcoholic mom, drug addict mom, dad left or died or something, raised by his grandparents, and then obviously a smart guy, goes to college, then goes to Yale, gets his law degree, then he writes a book. He writes a book about his life. It's supposed to be a pretty good book. I've never read it. And Peter Thiel comes along and and helps him get started in investment broking. And then he moves to another company and moves up the company in investment broking. And then Peter Thiel comes back and says, "Dude, good job. Now we need you to run for senator." And he's almost like the white version of Barack Obama. He's only been a senator 2 years. He came out of nowhere. He got funded and won a race. Well, Barack got handed his seat. The incumbent died or left or something. He just got handed it. Remember the what's the guy with the hair, the governor who said he had a golden ticket? Blokovich or whatever his name was. But they bring these people out. Sorry. It's been raining a bunch, and I think there's a lot of mold in there. But they bring these candidates, and it is almost like he's our version of the Manchurian candidate. Just all of a sudden, boom, he gets tapped. And everybody's like, "Oh, yeah, great guy, great guy, great guy." But I don't know if y'all watch Whitney Webb, but Whitney Webb, that girl is like a freaking computer. She's better than AI, just spitting out facts. And she laid out all these connections. And Peter Thiel owns the computer program Plantier. And everybody knows it's the big peekaboo software that they've been using on us for a decade now or more. And yeah, that's that's not good. We can't get any honest brokers. And you're hoping that at some point we get a president that's a flat earther. We get a president that like admits, "I don't know. Okay, I'll fund you. Let's go do this. Let's check. Oh, we don't know. I don't know. Let's do it. Let's take a look." Independent group, y'all put it together outside of mainstream academia and all that. And okay, we'll let you guys do it. Hey, Lee. We still live in a hole, huh, Lee? Do you mean like a basin? Like most flat earth people think we are? We got an ice wall and we're kind of like a basin. Is that what you mean, in a hole? Because it's just getting to a point where it's just ridiculous now. They literally are looking at us and going, "They're not smart enough. We'll just keep telling them this, and there's nothing. What are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? We'll go to Google Maps and we'll hide stuff. We got subversive tactics we can use." I saw a couple of videos from a guy who he'd searched on Google Maps and found some weird stuff around the Grand Canyon. And as soon as he got into it, immediately I was like, okay, this is a propaganda piece. This guy has been allowed to go into the Grand Canyon. Yeah, that's what I think too, Lee. But this guy, they let him go hike on his own into the Grand Canyon and go explore these what they call Native American things in these cliff walls in the Grand Canyon. And it's like he's the first one to discover this stuff. And there are pictographs on the on the cliff. Hey, Sarge, dude. And he's saying some pretty cool stuff, right? He's saying some really cool stuff. And you're just like, Okay. Okay, whatever. Stop. Sorry. Sarge. Stop. And you're like, okay, whatever. And then he does another one. And this one he finds these huge boulders that are cubes, that are pretty symmetrical cubes. And he has a drone, and from the top, you can see, man, it's a structure, a big structure with big blocks that were laid side by side. And and he gets out and he measures these blocks and stuff, and he's trying to figure out how big they are. And not once, it's just funny, not once does he go, this could be like a structure or something. He just keeps referring to how amazing nature is and how nature can form these things that are so amazing. And you're just like, there ain't no honest brokers out there. Everybody's paid. Who the hell can you trust? Who can you trust? When these guys stop in the middle of these videos and do their sponsor, I'm just like, I'm done. That's one of the things I've never, ever, ever done on my channel is say, oh, hey, would you hit the like and the subscribe, so, because the algorithm, hides me. Hey, dude, you are a problem, and no sponsors. These people have sponsors, and it's just, who can you trust anymore? I honestly want to know. Yeah. One of the only flat Earth people I even refer to or watch anymore is Witsit Gets It. I mean, he's about the only one I trust because the rest of them have been caught, fudging and playing both sides, and just it's so crazy. And it's when you see people like that PhD lady sit there, and once she gets cornered, once she gets put to the most logical and scientific questions on simple things, and her answer is, how can I trust the people who did it? What are their credentials? Have they been peer reviewed? You're just like, there you go again. There you go again. And the guy's like, hey, I know these people. I vouch for these people. I've done these tests myself and stuff. And she goes, well, how do you know where the height of the cameras were? How do you really know the distance? He goes, because these are known distances and they measured. And and like most PhDs, she says, how do I know they can even measure right? How do I know these aren't fake pictures? How do I, and wow, talk about not even willing to entertain it, not willing to accept that. That's interesting. And he asked her several times, well, just on the face of it, don't you think that's interesting that, what this is showing, especially because that was one of her first things. Well, we know that the earth is round because ships disappear over the horizon. So he brings it up and says, well, what about this? Refraction, right? They always say refraction. And so he shows her some examples of refraction. And he's like, totally different, right? All right. And this isn't refraction. This is a flat, level surface. The water is flat. Water finds its level. Now she's like, well, they don't, there's atmospheric changes and there's da, right? She's all the same excuses. And he says, he did it every day for like 3 weeks, right? And some days he could see further, some days he couldn't see as far. And she just was finally like, this is over. I'm done. And like I said, she told him, I should check your credentials before I did this interview. That's how bad they've been programmed. Is that unless you have the credentials, I don't even want to talk to you. I don't want to have a discussion about anything you bring up, no matter how good the question is. I'm going to shit on it because you don't have any credentials. The appeal to authority with authority is probably the biggest problem in science. Because he always said, we are doing science. We're doing scientific method. We're observing, we're testing, and we're repeating. And it's, it's right down the line. Oh, right. And that's what almost every flat earther will tell you. That once you see it, you can't unsee it. And there's never been, as far as anybody can document, a flat earther that went back to being a glober. Ever. Once you see the truth is too plain. The truth makes too much sense. Or their story. That's the thing. Her twisting herself into a ball, into a pretzel, using her scientific jargon to, hey Eric, what's up, bud? Using their scientific jargon to try and explain how gravity keeps the moon where it is, but gravity's not strong enough to keep a butterfly down. They just twist themselves into a pretzel with all this illogical bullshit. And then when they're called on it and put in a position to where, okay, gravity is a theory, but what we observe is right in line with physics of buoyancy and all that. She says, but buoyancy has something to do with it, but it's not buoyancy. It's gravity. It's only gravity. And when given those logical questions about, okay, if gravity's holding the moon there, but it can't do this, well, it's because of our atmosphere. And yes, the whole atmosphere is spinning, but she can't explain how or why. And then they get into photons and all this, and it's just wow. Nothing. And when they're pressed on, but wait a minute, these are just theories, they're like, yeah, but they've been tested many times. Yeah, and found to be false. Yeah, like only 2% of theory of relativity has ever been proofed out, I guess. About 2% is what the deal is. And they say, it's been tested and it can be trusted. What? And when you're using numbers like they use, and he pointed that out to her too, about these, they say they're seeing these new planets that have signs of water on it. And he's like, well, how do you determine that? And she's like, well, we take a picture, and then by the color and the kind of light and things we see, we know whether it's water, or if it's a rock, if it's a planet, if it's gas. We know all these things, just by this picture and all this stuff. And he presses her pretty good on it. And of course, she defaults to, that's not my department, right? That's not my department. I'm not sure how they do it, but I trust them. And she don't trust nothing that a flat earther would tell her, no matter how much evidence. And he gave her that. He asked her, is there any amount of evidence that if presented that you would reconsider, the whole heliocentric versus geocentric? No, she said. And most of them all say the same thing, no. Because they read their books, they trust what was in their books, and anything outside their books is propaganda to them. Which for us, it's the opposite. All the stuff in that book is propaganda and things you can, confirm, verify, observe, repeat. And our world is what goes, and in their world, it does not have to follow scientific method. And the best illustration of that was Eric Weinstein on Joe Rogan with old Clarence Howard. And he told him straight up, you're never going to get your papers published, your information, anything published, because you don't belong to that group. And that group, it's a guarded door. Nobody gets anything in the pier system unless you're in the pier system. And that's only, that system's only set up to help people get funding in whatever area they happen to be in. That it's nothing scientific to it. It's just, oh, Bob put out a paper. Everybody, even if he said he doubts half of them even read them. They just give their stamp of approval because their buddy Bob did a paper, and Bob is always right. We've known Bob. He's always right. Have you noticed that in my lifetime? I don't think I've ever seen breaking news. Science was wrong. So and so test this theory and it's wrong. They've been telling us this and it's wrong. He has proof right here. Never once ever. It's always been they discovered this and it's even better now. They discovered that and wow, aren't they great? And with no proof, just telling us. No proof whatsoever. Not one of them can explain why. Why all the flight manuals. Sorry again. And ballistics books and stuff all say in them, every one of them says in it, this is all based on a flat, non-rotating Earth. Yeah. And the few excuses I've seen to that is, well, because it's easier. It's easier to do it that way. But they do calculate in the device, I've heard many times, in the device that they're using, to aim with and everything, has the curvature calculations built in. And you're like, what? Right. I mean, it has become such a beast, $1 billion industry. And to start admitting piecemeal a little bit at a time, it would be terrible for them. You're right. It would. They can't afford it. Unless they flip into a whole new trajectory. Unless they say, oh, we've suspected this for a long time, and here's what it is. And trust us. We knew it was this way too, but this is also. I wouldn't doubt if they said, yeah, there are places. Now she kind of tried to say that. That lady in the interview that, oh, yeah, you can do that randomly around the globe because it has bumps and it has flat places. It's round, but it's got bumps and it's got flat places. So you can get lucky and find some flat places and do a measurement and be fooled into believing this. Yeah, right, Lee. The moon is so amazing. What's the name of the? Let me see. What's the name of the one? I look at the guy that's done the map. What is he? Something of the cosmos. Where is he? Vibes of the Cosmos. Yeah, he's the guy that did the overlay of the reflection of the Earth on the moon. That was pretty cool. And he's fine tuning it. Hey guys, what are y'all doing out there? Jeez, I know y'all can hear that. But yeah, the moon is so interesting. It's just wow. I watched a good deal about the moon the other day, and they were going through the waxing and the waning and all the different stages of the moon. Sarge, my God, you're loud. Hold on. I know that's loud. Go on. the job they can't admit it. You know, the whole thing about space, Elon came out, on Twitter the other day and said, hey, I think private citizens, people should be allowed to go to another planet and go to Mars. And you don't believe that guy? I just like his maps. I don't even think he talks much. He just shows that overlay map on the moon, lays out the continents and stuff on it. Look pretty cool. It's another theory that you can't dismiss it. But the moon is just, wow. It's just too crazy. And he asked her about the moon and stuff and was talking about the shadow and saying, hey, the shadow of the moon is 1,200 and something miles. And we know by all the testing that an object can't ever cast a shadow smaller than its actual size. Bigger because of angle or something, but not smaller. And she's like, oh, yeah, I can. He's like, no, it can't. It can't do it. He says, so with the moon's shadow, that it casts on the earth only being 1,200 miles wide, there's no way it can be the size they say. And she's like, oh, yeah. You don't understand refraction and you don't understand, all this stuff. He's just like, you don't have to understand that to know that a shadow, cannot be smaller than the object. And, he says, what about the relative same size of the sun and the moon? Isn't it convenient? Their distances. And then he talks about the moonshot picture of NASA where the Earth looks smaller than the moon. And he's like, okay, the moon looks this big from Earth, so the Earth should look this big from the moon. No, not necessarily. You don't understand what you're looking through. What? And that's another thing. How come every flat Earth observation and test done is just chalked up to you're dumb? You just don't get it. You don't get it. Yeah, sure, you did your test and you saw what you saw, but it wasn't true. It's not what's going on. Well, why isn't it? That's what we observed. That's what we tested. Yeah, where's your PhD? And she brought up the whole we know from the theory of relativity, we know from Einstein, and he brought up to her that did she know that in, I want to say 32 or something like that, 100 scientists in Germany sent a letter to like the Ministry of Science or whatever, that Einstein was wrong. His crap is wrong. And they shut those 100 up and propped him up. Where is it going? Right. They refuse that. They refuse the biblical narrative in every way, no matter what. They refuse it in every way. And they still, nobody addresses right now here where I'm at, maybe where you're at too, that every day in the evening, 6, 7 o'clock, the moon's right up here in the sky and the sun's in the west, about to set, but they're sitting there across from each other. And this is a quarter moon or half moon. And this is the sun. And they're saying, hey kids, do you know why the moon's lit up? Because the sun is shining on it. It's a reflection. And it's like, but hey, Mr. Scientist, they're looking right at each other. And only part of the moon's lit. How come all of it ain't lit? Yeah. Well, they don't have an answer. They just tell you you're dumb. It's because of refraction and you don't understand it. And like the like the consensus on the truth side, I think is now that these math equations and stuff, they purposely make them non-understandable to just keep you at arm's length. because they always, that's their default. Okay, fine, just show me the equations. Just show me the equations. That's all they want to hear. Show me the equations. Well, the equation is that we know that old platform is 27 miles off the shore, and we know we're at 3 feet off of the ground at sea level, and we know that the atmospheric conditions. So what else do you need? Well, I need some math. I need some math. I need some math that covers a whole page that explains exactly what you just saw. And it's like, do you need that? I mean, do you have to have that calculation, that equation to convince you that what we're seeing is what we're seeing? Yeah. Yeah, they're that brainwashed that they've been told. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you don't have an equation. And one of us didn't do it, and it didn't go through a peer review, then it can't be right. It just can't. And that's the crazy thing. It can't be right if you didn't do it their way. It can't. It just can't be right. There you go. Sorry, you big dummy. That's the most frustrating thing I think about it all is there's not one honest freaking scientist out there that'll sit down with anybody and have an honest conversation and go, I see what you're saying. I get that. No, they all shit on it and just go, we know. We have our theory of special relativity and we have gravity, And then the coup de grace, if you're not convinced that they're right, they say, we have NASA. We have NASA. Just go look at NASA. That's all you got to do. Just look at NASA. And then when they say, oh, we did. And this is what we found. And they're like, bull. Yeah, you're wrong. No, we're right. Here's the footage. That's editing. That's you. Y'all are making this stuff up. People, it's fakes. Yeah, it's fakes that they made. It's just wow. And everybody on that side goes, why would they lie? We all know why they would lie. They're hiding God. We know they're hiding Mount Meru in the North Pole, this huge magnetic rock that creates our magnetic field, which they call gravity. We know that the Earth cycles itself. We know that on Earth there's unlimited water and resources. We know there's something beyond that ice wall that they don't want anybody to see. We know that we've been lied to about our chronology. Our timeline is so messed up. There's people out there figuring it out. There's people out there every day getting closer and closer. That Sons of God ministry I watch, he's doing a new chronological timeline since how they changed everything with the Gregorian calendar and stuff, since how they just went and flipped all our time, dates, measurements on its head. It's really hard to figure out what happened first and put things in the proper chronological order. They made such a mess out of our history. Yeah, I mean, that's what the devil does. He is the father of lies. We know that. But so many people that I believe, a lot of these scientists, they truly believe in their field. They truly believe what they believe they know. And you can't, it's hard to combat that because they're in 100%. They spent their money. They sat in that seat. They went to their classes. They did their experiments. They wrote their papers. And they know that they're right because it was in every one of the books and they got the answers right. So they know they're right. And it's sad that the educational system has gotten to a point where it's just regurgitate, memorize this, regurgitate it properly, and you're smart. If I take you aside after the test and go, okay, lay this out for me, start to finish. Well, the answer's this. Well, how did we get there? Well, it's, you didn't ask me that question, till now. It's just sad. It's sad. But we are living in a crazy time. Wow, so much is unfolding. The Illuminati has revealed itself. Oh, there's a video going around with Vivek Ramaswamy, and he's at a fundraiser deal, and it's casual. He's talking to a guy, and God just, the first thing you hear is this guy. They're shaking hands, and they separate. And the guy says, "Okay, we'll talk about it later." And he goes, "I just hope we can figure it out." He goes, "Oh," Vivek says, "Oh, it's figured out. We know what's going on." And he comes back up to him. Yeah, no shit. Once you put out that kind of money, it's hard to believe you're lied to. But so he says, Vivek just goes into this deal going, it's not what it looks like. He says, they don't want Donald Trump to make it to election day. He said, and some stuff's fixing to happen. And he says, it's coming from inside our party. And the guy goes, do what? He goes, yeah. You'll see. It's coming. It's from the inside of the party. So Vivek is saying they've sniffed out a rat in the Republican Party. So we'll see what happens with that. But it's just, and nobody likes to go there because I'll probably get this video taken down for saying it, but it's just too obvious. It's in every institution. It's been the catalyst for, if not half of the wars, most every war for the last 500 years. And that's Judaism. It's it's the synagogue of Satan, man. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows those people. When you look at such a small demographic in a country our size, and the majority of our top government officials are from that ilk, and they run the biggest corporations, they run the porn industry, they run Hollywood, they run all these industries, and they get laws made. Oh, they are synagogue of Satan. But as soon as you point out their ill deeds, they get to scream, anti-Semitism, anti-Semitism. Oh, you're an anti-Semite. And they get countries to pass laws that say, you can't say nothing about them. I don't know if people know, all but 23 states, including Texas here, has laws on the books that say you can't talk ill of Israel. You can't boycott them. You can't do public protests against them. Look it up. I couldn't believe it when I was watching a video and a guy showed it. And it's like, wow. That's hard to believe that our legislatures in any state would go, yeah, I like that. That's a good law. Well, what about talking bad about me? What about talking bad about a white guy? What talking bad about a black guy, an Asian? What about them? Well, they haven't been persecuted for thousands of years. I guess that's one of the things that gripes my ass the most, is they get to keep using the victimhood from 2,000 years ago, which every single time, yeah, just 2 lost souls. That's right, bud. Swimming in this fishbowl. But going back in their history, even when you put their own history right in their face, they go, that ain't the way it happened. That wasn't us. It was you. It was you. I don't know if any of y'all have ever, there's a channel that puts out all of world leaders' speeches and translates them into English. And I've watched a few of the excerpts of some of the big bad guy Hitler's uh, speeches. And when you sit there and listen to it, he's just saying, hey, this is our country. These people have come in and took over banking. They've taken over agriculture. They've taken over, education. And they're perverting us. They're perverting our culture. We got to stop this. This is crazy. Look what they're doing to us. It's just, we're Germans. We got to fight for Germany. We can't let these outsiders come in. And you sit there and listen to these, and it's like really nothing radical in there. Just a guy who, I love my country. I love you guys. We got to stop this. They're hurting everybody. They're controlling everything. We let them slip in. What did he call them? In his speech, he calls them socialists or fascists. One. But it's just those kind of things at the narrative we get given from our powers. And most of them have known this for a long time. It doesn't even have to be the truth or even close to the truth. Because these days, with the internet, people do the research. They find the breadcrumbs here and there. They start putting a picture together. And they start to present it, and they get ignored. They get banned. They get throttled. They get shadow banned. Get their channels taken down. It's just not allowed. They're just not going to allow it. And that's pretty sad. That's pretty sad. I watched a big conference yesterday where they had open dialogue between, you name it. And they were arguing about journalism in Western society and how propagandized it is and how free speech doesn't exist. And all the people from the non-Western world were like, yeah, sure, y'all have free speech in the West. Sure you do. How about this, this, and this? And the only thing, you can say back to that is, well, it's not perfect, but at least we can, most of the time, say pretty much anything we want, and y'all can't. One guy goes through this whole freaking monologue talking about how in Qatar he gets to go to these conferences and they get to say whatever they want, but he leaves out all the fine details. There's no women allowed. You can't speak against the royal family. There's all this censorship, but they don't say that. They just go, hey, we can say whatever we want as long as it's a group of men. Yeah, you guys. And you don't cross any of these lines. But yeah, our media, yeah, is rotten. Has been for a long time. When you see those documents that say in the early, like 60s, early 70s, they had an agent in every newsroom. What do you do with that? How do you win when they have every lever of control? Every lever. People have tried to get in these institutions in the past, and they paid the ultimate price. There's a lot of people out there that history is painting as a conspiracy theorist, as a nut job, if they even get acknowledged, and they ended up dying in a car wreck, or they suicided themselves or something. And all of these people were onto it, and they just when you start exposing them, boom. Oh, their PR department is the best. They've spun some of the most outrageous fairy tales in my lifetime, and most of the people bought it. And funny thing is, there's a group of people out there that are skeptical. They see this stuff and they're skeptical, but they're like, what the hell? What does it matter? They've got us so in our brains in such a delta state with all of our devices that there's not much we can do. There's, these people are asleep, and waking them up is, if it doesn't come through their device, it's not going to happen, because they can't even pay attention long enough to absorb a conversation, to actually kickstart their brain to where they're thinking. They can't do it. It's proven. They're addicted to the phones. They're addicted to the swipe. You sit there and you watch these videos of these people, their kids in the basket at the grocery store, and they got an iPad in front of them, and this kid's playing a game, and they ain't 2 years old. My granddaughters, they know that when we go visit them, they know right where to go to the pictures. They want to see pictures of themselves and stuff. They know right where to go. She knows how to open it. She knows how to swipe. She just turned 3. It's like, oh my God. My youngest complained one time when she was probably 12, 13 years old. We were doing a move, and we're boxing everything up, and we have all these pictures. And she's noticing in these pictures, hey man, there's a whole lot more pictures of my sister than there are of me. What gives? And we're like, you don't realize you were born in 1997. 1996, 1995, 96. Alex was born in 95. The cell phones started coming out. Digital cameras started coming out. All those things started coming out. Oh, we got digital camera. And most of your pictures are on a disc. We burned them onto a CD, and we have them. And there's hundreds on there. And where your sister has a pile here of 20 pictures, you've got a disc with 100, And I told her, I said, you never grew up in a house without a computer. We had a computer desk, we had a desktop computer your whole life. There were cell phones in your life from the day you were born. As in, by the time you were 12, 13 years old, you had your own. I said, I got lucky. Me and my brother got lucky when my brother turned 12. We got our own phone number, our own phone at our house. We had a landline. We had a phone in each room. That was ours. that was not what we had, So, convincing these people these days, if it's not on TikTok or Facebook from somebody they trust, it didn't happen. And that's one of the things, and I'm sure y'all have experienced it too. When you talk to a Glober and you just, start explaining to them that you believe the earth is flat, their first reaction is, you're crazy. Whatever. Good God. I didn't want to hear it. My brother, like I said before, he's the same way. Tried to talk to him about it, and he's like, what does that matter? What does it matter? Try to explain to him. He's a Christian guy. Try to explain to him. Whatever. That doesn't make any sense. Well, because you're in the heliocentric establishment education mindset. You only believe what you've been taught. You're unwilling to look at anything new. You just are. That's the way it is. Well, Lee, Eric, Break a Hostility. Who else is in here? You guys, good seeing y'all this morning. I've been at it an hour. So tomorrow, cross your fingers, 1 o'clock, I'll go to the Neuroscience Center in Lake Charles. Maybe I can get some pain relief with my back. Maybe I can get on the golf course again someday. Maybe. Prayers, please. Pray for this country. Wow. This is going so off the rails. It's just, wow. You guys know, Lee, right here in South Africa. So I know it ain't good over there. I saw yesterday that Ireland was having riots. France was having riots. Their cultural enrichment program is going bad on them. That ain't looking good at all. So let's just cross our fingers and pray we keep some sanity around our parts in our sphere of influence. I truly think the Christians, we're going to be fine through all this. We just got this hedge of protection. It's the Holy Spirit, it's the truth, and we'll be good. But everybody, thanks for watching this morning. You know what I say? Good discernment and good vibrations. Love you all. Thanks.